Welcome to Chopper, that's me, Christopher Hope from the Telegraph, live in conversation with Laurence Fox. Well, this time, by the weekend, he could be Mayor of London. He may not be, but, you know, he lives in hope. He's well known to us all from the screens, from TV, and he's from a famous acting dynasty. But like Ronald Reagan, that's not enough, not for Laurence Fox. Here he is. Laurence, hello.
Hi, Chris. How are you doing?
Did you hear any of that or not?
Were you saying that my victory in London was not assured?
I did say that. I also said that, like Ronald Reagan, you're tired of the boards and you've gone into politics.
I have indeed.
But will you end up running the free world is a good question.
Oh, the formerly free world is what I would say. Let's hope so. Someone with a bit of optimism would be welcome in the conversation at the moment, wouldn't it?
Well, we'll come on to that. Now, listen, we've got literally hundreds of Telegraph subscribers. As many as 800 are tuning into this. It's quite a big. Imagine that number in a room. It'd be like a pre-election rally, wouldn't it? And it'd be quite electric. So let's imagine that tension and buzz in the room. The first question, and these are questions from subscribers, not from me, Laurence Fox. Are you going to be London Mayor by Saturday evening when the counting is done?
Well, we'll just have to see how many shy foxes there are out there, mustn't we? I certainly think we'll probably do better than the mainstream media would give us credit for. But for me, it's just been an absolutely wonderful experience to sit and meet people from all over London. Very moving experience, actually. So, you know, as someone said to me, you have to have a political battle, and this is your first one, and I've really enjoyed having it. But possibly victory? Yeah, shoo-in.
I was with you out in Romford Market, and you were actually moved by people saying they were going to give you your vote. It's quite a moving thing for you, wasn't it?
Yes, and you were the person who said to me, you know, you've got to ask people whether they're going to vote for you. Otherwise, you're just some bloke who's turned up in their shop.
You're buying ice cream. You have to say, will you vote for me? And that's the point of being – politics is amassing lots of votes, isn't it?
Haven't you noticed that I now do that, though? And I say, you know, are you going to vote for me? And it's been so lovely. Even people that say no, you can have a good conversation with them, and it's been great.
What is a good result for you? Is it double-digit numbers, being honest, or do you not want to go there before people vote tomorrow? What's a good result for Laurence Fox?
I think a good result is doing it, putting together a campaign, working it, and going. Now I know as we move forward, you know, this is what the demands on one are, personally, professionally. I just think that we've stood, and I'm so proud of everyone who's worked with me to put together a very positive campaign. So I'm thrilled about that.
But you're saying you're proud of the people who have backed you, who have come in behind your campaign?
Hugely, and so grateful for the people that have supported the campaign as well. You know, the people that turn up every day for this, you know, windswept bus in our new globally warm world, who have sat there and put the hours in. It's just very grateful. You know, the thing about, we've all lived in lockdown for a year, and we forget what human contact is like. And when you re-establish that human contact, you're reminded of how social we are as creatures anyway, and it's just been so encouraging. Yeah. I've had nothing but positivity out on the road. It's been great.
Is having no political experience an advantage or disadvantage, Laurence Fox?
I think it's a massive advantage in this era of professional politicians. You know, Keir Starmer has gone down to Bath and thought, well, this is a safe chat. I can walk into a pub and clap, and, you know, he's thrown out by a landlord who's furious. So I think my political experience as an actor, you learn to listen. It's your main job as an actor. So I've spent a huge amount of time listening, and rather than telling people what I'm going to do or how I'm going to do it, I just listen to what their worries are. So for me, it's been a massive exercise in faith in people and how wonderfully clever they are, and not the sewer that you get on Twitter or in various social media sites that everyone's been glued to for the last year.
Yeah, you're an actor. I mean, I was when I was with you in Romford Market. I mean, do you ever look in a mirror and question, why me? I suppose, I mean, why any politician really, but why you, and why you should be doing this?
I'm looking in a mirror right now. Oh dear. And no, my dad said to me the other day, he said, you know, you've taken a lot on your shoulders, and I hope God blesses you with it. I feel like this is where I've ended up. I'm not upset or angry about it. I feel much more of a sense of service and duty than I probably would if I'd wanted to be a professional politician. You know, this is where I am, and I want to contribute to a better conversation.
Yeah. Are you taking it seriously enough? You were photographed on Twitter today by St. Lawrence's Church, and you approved of that message, of course.
Are you saying that the Almighty is not blessing my campaign, Chris?
No, I'm really saying, are you taking it all seriously, Laurence Fox?
Well, I just walked past a church and it said St. Lawrence's, and I was like, there you go, it's a sign. You do take it seriously, but let's not lose the humour out of life.
Exactly.
You know, the wokists have already ripped that from us already.
Yeah. Someone asked me, why do you pronounce mayor? Is that because you're an actor?
What? Do I pronounce it wrong?
No, I don't know how you say it.
My mum used to go Glacier rather than Glacier.
Did she?
Which one is it?
I have no idea.
You say potato, I say potato. You say mayor, and I say mayor.
I got some
mayoral.
Mayoral. I've got some quick questions for you about you. How did you vote in the 2016 referendum, Laurence Fox?
Now look.
Come on, own up.
I'm blaming Toby Young for this one. Toby Young said to me when I was starting up the political party, he said, tell everyone that you voted Remain, and it'll really, really upset them because they won't know where to put you. But I voted Leave. Sorry.
Oh, there we are. And in 2017, there's rumours you voted for Labour. That right?
Confession again.
Yes.
Beautiful woman. Ballot box. Private. That's between me and my ballot box. Thanks very much.
Okay, but you've made a journey here. Our subscribers tell me, from being a Labour supporter to a kind of anti-woke campaigner. But I suppose you wouldn't say that's a left to right walk, would you? You'd say that was different. Is that right?
I'm a huge Labour supporter in many, many ways. You know, I think the Labour Party exists for a very, very important reason, which is to address social inequality in life. But the Labour Party have stopped being the Labour Party, which is an absolute nightmare for me. But yeah, socially, I'm quite conservative, but you know, culturally and more broadly, there is quite a strong, you know, we need more equality in this world because we all stuck up at the bottom otherwise.
Yes. Do you see yourself as a populist leader, which your critics say you are?
Populism is popular, right? And it relies on the people, doesn't it? So absolutely, I think there's nothing wrong with populism. I think the people are usually right. Yeah. That's what I think. So listen to them and represent them.
When people say to you they want to vote for Laurence Fox because you let me say I can't say anything until you're here, you know, you give them a permission to say things. Do you ever say to them, well, what do you want to say? Because if it is racist, then you shouldn't say those kind of things. And do you ever sort of challenge people back and say, well, I don't want to be a green light for saying dreadful things about people?
Absolutely, I think it's dreadful. Racism is dreadful, but to do what the modern left have done, which is say everybody is racist, and this idea of systemic racism is absolute codswallop. So what we need to do as a culture and as a society is celebrate things we do really well, which is that we're warm and welcoming, tolerant and optimistic, and call out horrible examples of racism. But this whole idea of turning around and saying we're systemically racist is just grifting by the left for, you know, to undermine our culture. And actually we should be incredibly proud of how progressive and tolerant and wonderful we are, to the point where people get in dinghies and come over the channel. But sometimes after spending a day on Twitter, I want to get in a dinghy and go back over to France.
Have you ever been tempted to turn off your Twitter feed? It is quite a battleground, even today.
No, I'm not, because I think we need representation of the conversation across all platforms. And it's all very well, you know, I see it pop up, the FBPE, the European flag and the little blue heart, and I'm like, oh, what are you coming at me now? But weirdly today, as we've had a small victory over things to do with language, it's important that we are respectful to each other. And, you know, I think you can be robust and you can resist and fight, but ultimately, I wish no one any ill. Yeah. So, you know.
Okay. Let's imagine on Saturday night you're in City Hall and you've won. You're the mayor of the greatest city on this earth. What was your first top 3 priorities once you're mayor?
Well, I'm going to get a fleet of forklift trucks, which I'm going to drive out to the parts of London where these horribly discriminatory low traffic neighbourhoods have been done, and I'm going to get rid of every single one on night 1. So that'll be done overnight. Then the next morning, I'm going to call in the chief of the Metropolitan Police, and I'm going to say you're fired, and I'm going to hire someone else.
Right.
who is going to be Harry Miller. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, you're going to police without fear or favour. And London is in intensive care when it comes to knife crime. And I'm going to say, of course, there are more important things in the longer term that we need to do in terms of evidence-based policing, but London is bleeding to death. So I'm going to make sure that every single child in London knows that in my London, they'll be stopped and they will be searched. And if they're silly enough to be carrying a knife around, they will regret that for the rest of their days. What's the third thing I'm going to do?
That was three. That was three, but you can keep going.
Oh, it was good. Oh, my God. I've got policies.
Who is Harry Miller, Laurence Fox?
Harry Miller is a wonderful human being who is currently in the Court of Appeal over hate crime legislation, trying to bring down these HCOGs, these non-crime hate incidents, which are blighting people's lives. And he's a former docker and a policeman, and he understands what policing is. But without fear or favour.
He's not a copper, so you can't make a non-policeman the chief of the metropolis, which is that job. I mean, that's a job that goes to a policeman, isn't it? So you can't really replace Cressida Dick with a civilian.
Well, I met an assistant commissioner the other day when, you know, as a mayor, as a mayoral candidate, you get to meet the police. And I went to go and meet the police the other day, and there was lots of funny words coming out of his mouth, like safe spaces and various. And after a while I said, is the Metropolitan Police an anti-racist organisation? And he said, yes. I thought, you're fired too, chum.
Well, that's not fair, because of course they're anti-racist. Massive to the Mets. You can't say
no. And anti-racism is racism. It's got to stop. It's wokery gone mad. It's just rejigging language. We need not racist is better.
Yes, but imagine
let's not do racism.
Okay, that's not good. I mean, yeah, I think it's a false question, because he couldn't say the other way, could he? Obviously, but you want to cancel the congestion charge. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. Any taxation in the name of salvation needs to go. You know, this whole sort of we're doing it for a better world. It's like, I'm really sorry. You've got a congestion charge that people cannot even on a weekend now come and do some work. You know, we're talking about these are the margins in people's lives, the fine margins in people's lives, and it's like, yep, let's do the weekend.
Presumably, you would go ahead with the extension to the outer zone, would you? With the
no,
you know, the charge. Yeah, all those. I mean, the question which any politician would have to answer then, given all that, is how on earth are you going to bail TfL out of its black hole? Because these things are not things I imagine that Sadiq Khan wants to do, but he's got to do them, hasn't he? Because he's got the settlement with the Treasury.
Well, it's fascinating that the Tories will apply modern monetary theory to their own government, and they'll print more than £1 billion a day off to go, yeah, no, it's fine, 407 billion, who cares, magic monetary, we'll do it. But they make Sadiq Khan serve them as a result of ancient monetary theory, which is like, if you pay for it, if you want it, you've got to pay for it. So I think that the government have got a lot to answer for anyway in diluting our currency in the way that they've done. But it's so
you'd borrow more, essentially, as you're saying, aren't you? You'd borrow to fund these tax cuts, you'd borrow more.
I don't think you do. The money, the way the research that we've done in, which is very, very detailed research, you know, because I know I'll get attacked over this stuff. So it's very, very detailed research. If Sadiq Khan is turning around and saying, you know, people come up to me and take a pop at me over the tube thing, which because they go, you socialists, stop giving people stuff for free. And I go, but Sadiq Khan is saying it's 20 to 60% occupancy of the tube over 2 years. And that's where he's budgeted his 2.9 billion quid from. So I'm saying if you give people 6 months free travel on the tube, 80 to 100% occupancy, it pays for itself after a year, so you've got another free year. All it is going, either you're stealing money off people or you're giving it back to them. And I'm someone who wants to give it back to them.
These are pure Corbynite policies, aren't they? Aren't they, Laurence Fox? I mean,
am I a Corbynista?
You sound like it to me.
Oh, Lord. No, I'm not.
You're going to storm out now, aren't you?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying, sometimes I think you've got to rejig the personality of a city. And what you want to do with London is it's been drenched in wokery for the last period while Sadiq has been running it. And what I would like to say to people is, look, you take the £12, £15 of your travel and go and spend it in a local coffee shop. I'm not taking it off them.
No.
I'm saying, you know, these people are trying to lift themselves up out of the hardest period of their life. I hear this every single day. People saying it's unsustainable.
We haven't mentioned knife crime, have we yet, Laurence Fox? That's a big part of your campaign.
Yeah, I'm absolutely horrified about the knife crime in London. And I'm a father, and a single father at that, so you can't keep an eye on your kids all the time. No. And the idea that as part of a gang initiation that someone would have to shank your child is, to me, absolutely horrendous. And weirdly, it's one of those things that one would get into politics for, to go, I would like to stop this.
Yeah.
I would like to stop knife crime, and it's something I could do about it. Why is Siri talking to me? I don't want to talk to Siri. I hate Siri. It's quoting me.
One of our subscribers has said to us that a 13-year-old was stabbed outside their children's school last week during the school run. I think this affects everybody, doesn't it? I mean, I wonder what more you can do. Knife arches, is it education? What more can you do apart from wring your hands and say we're doing something?
Well, no. So when I went to speak to the Metropolitan Police, after a while, I said to the highbrow guys, could you do one so I can speak to the PCs? And I spoke to WPC, and I asked her, what would you do tomorrow morning if you wanted to solve this problem? She said, what we need is a much better interconnectivity between the educational system, the social care system, the police system. And then once you've got those people talking together, you can identify vulnerable children. And that's what we need to do. And then he said, look, by the time kids turn up in our police stations with a knife attack or even holding a knife, it's too late. So we've got to be genuinely equitable to our citizens of London and say, look, let's identify those kids that are maybe heading down a dark path. Because, and also lads need dads. I know that's also apparently racist now to say that as well, but we need male role models.
Not racist.
Well, no, but it is apparently on Twitter. Everything's racist on Twitter. But I think, let's set some positive role models for our kids, and let's be optimistic rather than go, oh, it's all going into misery. I'm tired of it.
Someone asked them, how can London regain parity with the Big Apple, New York City, without more powers from Boris the Trolley Johnson? I'm not quite sure why it's called the Trolley, but in terms of London's international standing, what more would you do to boost that?
Well, look, what is London and Britain famous for? We are the cradle of freedom of speech, we're the cradle of democracy, we're the cradle of fairness and decent thought and inquiry. So I think that's what we need to do. I don't particularly think that New York is a massive success story currently, with some of the problems that they're facing, and more broadly in America. So I think what we need to do is we need to bang the drum for what a wonderful country we are, and it's a cultural shift that you're asking for, because you're asking people to be optimistic rather than fearful, and we've lived in a very fearful period for a long time.
And of course on new homes you've got a policy on that too, that you want to, obviously that's a vital question for anyone living in London, is more homes, bringing the price of property down. Where do you stand on building more high-rise housing? You pro that, anti that?
I think two things. I think it's very difficult to feel like you belong somewhere if there's a very small chance of you ever being able to buy a house there. So I think in terms of, I think that's crucial. I think that's culturally very important for us as a nation to go, you are welcome, that you will be able to buy a house in this place. And that involves immigrants, and it also involves whatever we are, natives. And I think in terms of high rise, office space is clearing up. So I'm with the Lib Dems on this one. Let's allow buildings, but it's not naturally British to live on top of one another, I don't think. So I would be looking to go, okay, there's a giant car park forecourt there. That is green belt. Could we turn that into 5 or 10 houses? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's incremental.
So you build on green belt that isn't very green, for example, which is actually, I think, a policy of many of the other main parties. But you need more homes, though, don't you? So high rises could be required. What's the way out of the cladding crisis for leaseholders, which is a complete nightmare?
Well, I think in terms of the cladding, it's whoever put the cladding up is responsible for taking it off and replacing it. It cannot be put on private systems.
And if they can't be found, if the builders who did it can't be found anymore, that's part of the problem, isn't it?
Then what is the government's responsibility? It's to keep its citizens safe. So
they're stepping in, but there's claims that the money that they've offered isn't enough.
They're printing off more than £1 billion a day, aren't they? So I'm sure they could find it somewhere in their magic money forest.
Or more, maybe. The social care crisis is not one for you if you're Mayor of London, but do you have any ideas about that?
In what specifically?
Well, just how to resolve it, because it's an ongoing problem.
In terms of homelessness and things
well,
like this?
More like social care. So how to provide, for old people and people to be looked after into a...
Well, they're about to be destroyed, older people, with this new boiler plan. So, ultimately what you're going to do is go, we are coming out of an unprecedented time in our national history. What you've got to do is you've got to motivate people and help them to get back to their lives. But yeah, I mean, it's dreadful to think that we're going to make people rip out their boilers and make their lives much more expensive. I was in a market the other day, and they said 250 vans in one market were going to have to go just because they were the wrong registration plate. So let's just get rid of all of this pointless regulation and allow people to keep the money in their pocket as much as possible.
I'll start with quick questions on other areas which are not in your purview, but may help people decide whether to vote for you tomorrow. What's your attitude towards gay rights, Laurence Fox?
Love gay rights. They're the same as their human rights, aren't they?
Quite right.
I mean, tell my poor old albino black Brexiteer gay friend about gay rights. He's been totally cancelled by the gay community for not having the right views on Brexit. Bless it.
Okay. What's your view on homelessness? Obviously, it's appalling, but how would you help solve it? It's a big issue in London.
I think it's very difficult, homelessness, because obviously any civilized society would say that no one should be homeless in it. But as anyone who looked at this at all knows, it's a very complicated issue. And sometimes, whether you like it or not, it's a very uncomfortable thing to say homelessness is a choice. And we have to accept that, and we have to go, okay, well, how can we make your homeless situation better for you? But yes, ultimately, all of our efforts as a society must be based towards the most vulnerable amongst us, because that's the whole point of a society.
Would you encourage people to turn a blind eye to cannabis use?
I think I am sort of starting to lean over to that way. I mean, I really do. I can't. How can you sit there and go, you're free, and not say, have a joint? I mean, but then you've got to take the conversation all the way. It's kind of like abortion, isn't it? It's like, how far do you take it? And I don't want people to be drug addicts or alcoholics or homeless or anything. But sometimes I think, if you want to smoke a spliff. But London is full of it now, and I don't think it's making us a more hospitable place.
Have you ever tried drugs?
Me, all of them, except heroin.
Blimey. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Do you hunt, Laurence Fox? Do you hunt foxes?
No, I don't hunt foxes. I have hunted a mink once, where I fished a lot, and the mink used to kill all the lovely roach in the weir pool, and I would be sat there fishing, and this mink would jump over the wall into the weir pool with a roach in its mouth. So I was like, yuck, I hate you, mink. So I have hunted mink.
Did you get the mink? Was it hunted down?
Oh, I didn't get the mink. The massive pack of hounds got the mink.
God, is that legal? Yeah. Is it legal to hunt mink?
It was back in the day.
Right.
Yeah. We are talking 20 years.
We are, okay. Where do you stand on the issue of capital punishment? Would you bring back hanging, Laurence Fox, given the chance?
No, I don't believe human beings should kill one another.
No.
I don't believe God asked us to do that. I mean, I'm really pleased, weirdly, that wouldn't be put to a referendum, because you can imagine what the answer would be.
Yes. Just on the issue of hunting, Jeffrey McGowan asks, have you ever felt hunted?
No. I mean, I don't know. No. I just feel like I get on with my life day to day, see what happens. Sorry, Jeff. I wish I could say something more interesting. Just
moving on to lockdown. You would commit to lifting lockdown restrictions as soon as you're elected mayor. Is that right?
100%, yeah.
Even though it might risk, there's all sorts of concerns, and we are very low infection rate at the moment, but it might risk further infections and increasing pressure on the NHS.
We've got to have a conversation with ourselves about death. We do. People die.
What do you mean by that?
Well,
that's appallingly heartless thing to say. People die.
Is it?
Yeah.
They do, though. They do die.
Yeah, but no one wants to die from COVID. They want to keep living.
No, absolutely. And what have we done as a society? We've club together and we've made sure that the minimal number of people pass away from COVID. But we also have to draw a balance between what is a massive imposition of personal liberty on top of saving a certain number of lives. What are the COVID deaths within 28 days of a positive COVID test today, for example, in England? You've got to think about cancer deaths. You've got to think about other deaths. You've got to think about mental health. You've got to weigh these things up. That's what leadership is. And I think ultimately, as a leader, you should turn around and you should go, what is the most liberty-loving choice that I could make here? So, that's where I fall with it. I've got 3 friends whose parents have got cancers that have metastasized. I know people that are in really bad places mentally. So we got to go, COVID's really important, but what are the complications in the third world going to be? They're saying 120, 130 million dead as a result of Western lockdowns. So all I'm saying is, I don't know the answer. Let's have the debate.
Have you been jabbed, Laurence Fox?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Why not?
No.
Because you're over 40, so you're allowed to have one, aren't you?
Oh, apparently you are. I saw Matt Hancock grinning about it the other day. Why would I need to be? I mean, I never got the flu jab. I had the flu when I was young, when I was a kid at school, and it was horrendous. And I felt like I was going to die. And my eldest son, has had very, very bad flu, and it's life-threatening when you get it. But I also feel I'm not mad keen. If it's not going to kill me, if the chances are it's not going to kill me, why would I medicate myself for something that's not going to kill me? That's what I think. Until it's completed clinical trials.
But you might pass it to somebody else who isn't vaccinated. I mean, all sorts of reasons why one should be vaccinated, aren't there?
I don't know. I think we've vaccinated 99% now more of the most vulnerable. And I think, as I said at the beginning of the question, we've got to have a conversation with ourselves about death. There is no zero death in this new modern world.
But we can try and stave off death by not getting COVID, can't we? I mean,
which is what we've done. And I'm very pleased that we've done that. But my vaccination status, in the same way as who I vote for, on what my sexual orientation is, or anything that involves my personal liberty, is none of anyone else's business who I'm not going to affect. So if 99% of the vulnerable have been vaccinated, my vaccine status is none of your business, actually. Yeah.
And that's a point that some people are making here on the chat, which I'm looking at as well at the same time. Just moving on to this issue of wokery, which is a big concern you have about London. Why are you running in London, given London is seen as quite a woke city?
Because there's no constituency, there's no candidate. You would have thought the Conservatives would have stood up for what I stand for. Where are they? This is a dreary race for restriction of liberty, and I stand for our liberty. So I'm trying to offer the people of London a constituency, of London, someone to vote for. That's why I exist. Yeah.
How do you think? I mean, they say the question here from a subscriber is, how do we, that's the subscriber, make the so-called metropolitan elite understand they are out of tune with the rest of the country? I mean, is that why you're standing, to make that clear?
Yeah, I think the metropolitan elite have drastically underestimated how much people love just being British, and I think it's such a wonderful thing. So I think the most important thing is, we exist. I exist. I've come out and said, this is how I feel about our country. And, if you're interested in voting for me, do. And if you're not, that's fine too. But, that what you do ultimately is you go, I insist on our right to free expression. And through free expression, you get great policies, you get great films, you get great ideas, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah, the Tories are talking a good game on culture wars, according to one subscriber. Why shouldn't people vote for them? Do you think they're nicking your clothes slightly in the protections for statues through the planning system, for example?
I don't seem to remember the Tories making any noises about cultural issues until I turned up, without wishing to blow my own trumpet.
Yeah, well, yeah. So you think you're acting on the Tories in the same way that Farage did with UKIP? It's drawing it towards.
I think the Tories are not Tories. So I mean, I don't even know what Tory is nowadays. But the Conservatives, surely the whole point of conservatism is to have the conversation and to be freedom loving. And I've not seen much freedom loving conservatism coming out of Number 10 Downing Street for a very long time.
How do you think we can resolve this issue of wokery? I mean, are we destined to keep going down this divisive road, or do you think there's a way to bring the two paths together?
What's interesting is that wokery is essentially religion crossed with Maoism, isn't it? So it's a very dangerous advancing ideology, and it will lose because it's anti-evolution. human beings and all creatures evolve. And the thing about wokery is it drags you into the center and it collectivizes, and that's very anti-human. So we'll win anyway. The conversation and the argument will be won through reason, kindness, and listening. But the question is, do you want that battle to go on from 1917 to 1989? Or do we want to end this conversation that's going to make our children poor and miserable sooner?
Do you think we needed some form of free speech act in Parliament? It wouldn't be one that you could do as Mayor of London, but some idea of enshrining in law what you can and can't say, like they have in America.
I think that, America in the
Constitution.
First Amendment is being massively undermined, isn't it, at the moment? Certainly through Facebook's continual suppression of Trump's ability to speak his mind freely. Facebook have said it breaks the community guidelines. I have commissioned a piece of work, a very interesting and brilliant, actually, piece of work over just this issue with some recommendations for the government. Should they choose to follow them, I will be lobbying them hard to do it on exactly this issue.
That's part of the future.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm not going anywhere.
Well, someone's asking if for some ghastly reason, in their words, you're not mayor after tomorrow, how will you continue your fight against wokeism? I think that the party is funded, isn't it, until the next election? So you will be around for a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. This short journey that I've been on thus far has been very encouraging, so I have lots of plans, and one of them being this legal remedies to the problems of free speech in our country, which is actually quite small. And someone I met very early on in my political journey said to me, don't try and change the world, try and change one tiny thing about the world. And that's what I'm doing. It's a huge battle we're facing in this country to save our culture, actually. Really.
And that's the plan for Reclaim post-election, is that right? It's a kind of culture wars vehicle.
I think culture wars is the wrong definition of it. I mean, it's called a culture war by someone else, but I'm going, it's a culture preservation order.
Yeah.
It's like, we've got, this culture has existed and it moves as well. It's very progressive, our culture. And this whole idea that we're not progressive, we're just a bunch of sort of little Britishers. It's silly. And we should celebrate who we are. It's not a war, it's a defense. It's putting up some barriers against some of the nastier cultural imports from America and elsewhere.
There's lots of talk about a merger with Richard Tyson, Nigel Farage's party, Reform. Is that something which you might try and do?
I tell you something interesting.
Yeah.
Every single person has said, they're the worst. They're all the worst, but they're terrible. You go and meet these lovely people. They are so nice. So we've had a really nice time on the campaign trail together. We'll continue our conversation. And what's so encouraging as well is that Richard was smart enough, I was smart enough to go, how can we serve the national interest by working together? And we will be better together. That's it generally, and that's not just to Reform, that's to all of the parties on the entrepreneurial, freedom-loving side of the debate.
I'm going to dip in now into live questions posted by people watching this, and there's loads of them. Do you have the appetite for public administration, Laurence Fox?
Do I have the appetite for public administration?
Which is what your job's about, because it's not all about showing off, but to put it bluntly, but it's about actually doing the hard yards of administering safe roads, safe policing, house building projects, all that kind of thing. Can you get the team around you who can deliver that for you?
Yes, I think that the team that I've already assembled around me are formidable compared to actually what you're getting in terms of the main parties at the moment. So absolutely. And, it's not like I've gone, should I do acting for loads of money and just chill? Or shall I do some bit of public service? It's like, this is my public service. I owe it to people. Yeah. So absolutely, I would do the best job I could possibly do.
It wasn't where you thought you'd be until you appeared on Question Time last January, is it? Now here you are being grilled by Telegraph subscribers before a kind of election in the world's biggest city. It's quite something else, isn't it?
It's quite something else, but it's great. I have faith in God, and I believe that this is what I should be doing.
Some of our subscribers remember when you also were a singer. Will you go back to singing?
I wrote a song the other day.
Did you?
Called The Rubicon.
Did you?
Yeah.
Because you've crossed it.
Watch it. Yeah. Well, the lyrics go, I took a step across the Rubicon, across the point of no return, to find the Rubicon's a con. and I was just drawing borders in my mind.
Right.
Those are the first lyrics.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, perhaps you can see, you can play us out later. Ros asks, are you in favour of maintaining the Freedom Pass? Very important to pensioners, the Freedom Pass. Will you keep that going?
100%. And not only would I keep that going, I'm going to bring that forward to 7 a.m. so that grandparents who do the school run for their children will be able to do the school run for free.
Yeah. Because
that's how it should be. We work as families. Let's do everything we can to celebrate the family. What a wonderful institution the family is.
Did you think that the metro mayors like you would be and police commissioners are a costly, pointless EU anachronism?
Yeah, I think I responded to it to a degree. I think... Look, I think any sort of bloated bureaucratic system is silly, but I think mayors can be a great drum hitter for our great city. So that's what I think the mayor should be doing, for example, and the very simple things that they do. When it comes to sort of whether it's got anything to do with the EU, I'm like, we don't belong in the EU anymore. So bye.
Yeah, don't miss that at all, do you?
Not much.
What's your view on Heathrow Airport expansion? That's obviously an area which we know that Boris Johnson is against, and it's under question now, given COVID and how it might affect international travel.
Well, I'm pro-holiday. So
we're all that.
Good. I'm my holiday, my choice, which is what I'm up for. I actually think Boris's idea was really good because Heathrow, essentially 30% of Heathrow travel is transit travel. So Boris's idea of throwing it all out into Boris Island was not a bad idea. So I'm very happy to call it Lozer Island.
Okay. Well, but it cost money and wasn't getting off the ground, was it? Because it basically didn't make sense.
So does HS2. So does Crossrail. So does growing a culture in a society and making it a modern and wonderful thing. Things cost money.
They're voting in Scotland tomorrow. What's your approach to Scottish independence?
I think I've got a personal view, obviously, and I've got a professional view. My professional view is that I don't get to vote in the election, so it's none of my business. Mm-hmm. And my personal view is if you get stuck in a truck in the outback in the middle of Australia, stay with your truck. Don't go looking for water.
What does that mean, Laurence? What does that mean?
What it means is that, are we stronger together? Or are we better apart? And because I love the family and I believe in, these boring things like mums and dads and all of that stuff. I'm like, let's stay together if we can. But that's my view. And also Scottish people can take a pop at me all they want. I don't mind. Okay. I don't get to vote, so it doesn't matter.
Do you have a plan for the city, the main engine room of London? Do you have a plan for that? How are you going to regenerate it?
Seems to be doing all right by me, the city, doesn't it? I mean, the only thing I'd do is get rid of these ridiculous LTNs within the city so that your small and medium-sized businesses can go and deliver to the people that work in the city. I'm not really interested in mega multi-millionaire billionaires who make money out of nothing. I'm more interested in the pie and mash shop around the corner that needs to get the pie and mash to the multi-millionaire. So as long as that can happen, as long as that passover of cash can take place, then I'm happy.
Yeah. Richard says here that it can't be easy being treated as a pariah on social media. How does your experience of actually meeting people outside of Twitter compare with your experience on social media?
Social media. It's not. What is social media reflective of? But people whinging into the void. It's got nothing. Meeting people on the street is fascinating. If, for example, what you were asking me about in terms of the Freedom Pass, that was something that was told to me by a guy on the street. He said, my mum and dad have to take my kid to school because I can't afford to do this. And I was just like, why have I not thought up this policy? So I've been absolutely blessed to be able to meet the people of London. And if anyone thinks social media is reflective of anything other than social media, they're foolish. Bless them. I just laugh them off.
Have you a view on water cannon? That's being asked on the group here. I know Boris Johnson bought 2 water cannon to deal with trouble that never been used, and now much mocked by Theresa May. What's your take on crowd control in riots?
I think that if someone starts to set fire to a police van, then you should expect a very large water pistol. pointing at you. But fundamentally,
so you're pro.
Yeah, 100%. If someone's going to launch a violent protest, then water cannon them the hell out of them. I don't mind. But what I think is that you should encourage protest, but that you should encourage peaceful protest. But the minute you start setting fire to police vans or spraying racist on Churchill statue, then I would be slightly grinning if the next shot of someone going racist on Churchill statue was followed by a giant water cannon smacking them in the side of the head.
Okay. Well, I hope they're okay after that. What was your view of Sir Keir Starmer and the Labour Party, Laurence Fox?
Oh, he's not landing, is he? He's not landing.
It's been hard, though. I mean, trying to be a politician remotely. We're doing it today, aren't we? Not meeting in person.
No, he's a douche. He's a douche. You can't sit there and go. And he's totally brought up the critical race theory stuff, talking about structural inequalities, getting down on his knees to Black Lives Matter. It's like you reap what you sow, mate. You're not reflective of labourers. Reflect and represent labourers. Stop reflecting and representing Prosecco drinking Isling tonight.
Where do you find your support coming from?
My support comes pretty broadly, actually, mainly from people that are free loving. They're just like, get out of my way. I want to get on with my day. I don't want the government involved as much as possible. I just want to be able to make my own choices. It's across the political spectrum.
Yeah, because of course you're funded by a serious financial player in the city. But I've seen you walking around the marketplace and stuff, and you do have people to respond to you, don't they?
They really do. I got stopped today by a street sweeper called Martin. I walked past him, and then a girl called Lois, who was with me, he stopped her and he went, "You tell him that I'm voting for him because he's the only one who cares about me." And then I turned around and went, "Hello, mate." He went, "Oh, it's you." Because actually, you get lost in politics and this whole thing like which constituency you're trying to represent. I'm just like, who needs looking after?
Yeah, but would you try and be an MP? Let's say you don't become mayor of London tomorrow, but you get enough to kind of think you can carry on with this game. Do you ever want to stand there will be by-elections before the next election if it's held in 2023 or 2024? Would you stand?
I'm very motivated actually now. Now that I've cut my teeth, I'm very motivated to go out and speak to people. It's important. So yeah, absolutely would be the answer to that.
Yeah,
and with others as well. I want to get together a band of brothers and sisters who will come out and argue for freedom and argue for our culture and argue for Britain and defend this great, wonderful country of ours.
Yeah. And did you think, Laurence, this is a question from Bo Atherton, that children should be learning about finance alongside English, maths and science in school? So finance being a lesson or a thing, expertise? No, because you're an art student, aren't you? So you don't think it's good.
No. Parents pay for their children. That's what happens, and then what you do as a parent after a period of time is you go, if you want a new game on the Xbox, then you're going to have to clean my car. So it's a parent's job to teach a child about finance. What children need to be taught is how to think. And our schools are letting them down on a daily basis for that one. And education is something that needs drastic reform. It needs to be depoliticized like every single other institution in this country. Depoliticized. It's not political. National health is not political. We all pay for it. Make me better.
But don't you think that children need to know about money and how to spend it? I mean, that's the point, isn't it? That you have children need to know how to reckon up and how to it's basic housekeeping.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the parents' job. It's not the government's job. Right. I don't want the government teaching my child how to spend their money. I want the government getting out of the way, and I want the parents to take responsibility for their own children. That's how it should be.
Okay. Well, Laurence Fox, we've got 2 minutes left now of our excellent chat. It's flown by. How will you be spending the next 48 hours?
Next 48 hours are tomorrow morning. I'm going to go and vote with the dogs. I'm going to take the dogs down to my local polling station and enjoy the fact that it's the first time in my entire life I get to walk into a polling station and vote for Count Binface. I mean myself. and then we're going to have loads of champagne.
Yes. And who will you be voting for? You'll vote for yourself, and then there'll be parties open. Yeah.
My second preference is going to be Shaun Bailey because I believe he's a good man, and I believe he's been unfairly and not well supported by the Conservative Party, who have abandoned London. And I think he's a really good man, and I will give him my second preference.
Yeah, I think you're right. He is a good man, but he may not win.
Yeah.
Have you met all the candidates? I know you shouted Sadiqi Wiki at Sadiq Khan from the bus when I was with you on that bus when he was doing a clip for local TV. Have you met him since he started?
Well, Sadiq's too busy calling me a far-right extremist in his very gentle way that he does. Silly man.
So you haven't met him?
No, I've not met him. I was thinking about trolling him with a chicken running around with a Sadiq Khan mask on, going. But I then thought that's just lo-fi, so let's not do it.
And that's because he wouldn't debate you then any TV debates. Is that right?
Well, look at what's happening to the media. It's very, very sad that they won't let people that are polling, whether they go, oh, you're on 1%. It's like, we'll see tomorrow, by the way. But it's like, there should be a democratic process where people talk. And, it's a shame that I've not got to speak to him this time. But he's planning on being leader of the Labour Party, and I'm planning on being his worst enemy. So I'm sure we'll get to debate one day.
Well, Laurence Fox, it's been great to have you on. We are up to over our limits. It's been great to have you on. Thank you for joining us and all our subscribers. Thank you for all your brilliant questions, which have been flowing down the right hand of this column. And Laurence, have a look at them. They're all saying some nice things about you. Some are not so nice, but have a read. And hope you've enjoyed the past 45 minutes. Freedom of speech. All the best. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Chris.
Take care. Cheers.